Welcome to Cozy Noah Vibes, where we listen, relax, and then drift into dreamland together. My name is Noah, and it's an honor to be your host. Thank you for tuning in. This week, we're making the most of the last few days of summer before fall arrives. For those of you in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the perfect time to savor these final warm days. And for our friends in the Southern Hemisphere, we hope you enjoy our stories just as much. This week's story follows a city girl named Anna on a day trip to a rural town. She finds herself enchanted by the serene lifestyle of the small town. We'll join her as she drives through beautiful countryside, strolls through the quaint town center, and visits a lush sunflower field. The story will be read by Gwen, whose gentle voice will guide us through Anna's journey. Now, let's settle down and prepare for a lovely evening. I hope you feel calm and comfortable, ready to fall asleep. But even if you're not completely relaxed yet, that's okay. You can listen to our story at your own pace, allowing your thoughts to drift to a soft and peaceful place, leaving all your worries behind. No matter how you feel right now, no matter what's happening in your life, you deserve this moment of rest. We all have responsibilities and pressures, sometimes weighed down by various thoughts and concerns. But please, without any doubt, believe that this is your moment to let go and completely unwind. Gently slow down your breathing and find a rhythm that makes you feel more at ease. As you inhale, let all the tension gather in your shoulders. Then slowly exhale, imagining that tension rolling down your body and out through your toes. Continue this breathing and releasing tension pattern until you feel ready. When you are ready, let your natural breathing rhythm gradually return. Now, let's imagine ourselves driving along a country road. As you move further away from the town and city, your worries and concerns gradually fade away. You pass by vast fields, swaying in the wind in dense green forests. This is the beginning of our story tonight, Anna's journey. Anna spotted the exit sign from a distance, and other cars leisurely passed her by. She turned on her right blinker, started to slow down, and took the exit from the highway. The road looped around about, gradually revealing a lush hillside topped with an old, majestic tree. Anna moved to the city about 10 years ago. She grew up in a small town surrounded by fertile farmland and sunlit hills, with flowing rivers and streams, and fertile mountains as the backdrop of her childhood. Although Anna had been surrounded by such beautiful natural scenery all her life, she craved more. She longed for the city, for its lights and vitality, and I imagined a life different from the one she had grown up with. She wanted to walk to work instead of commuting by car, as she did in her hometown. She craved weekends spent visiting art galleries, meeting people from all over the world, and stepping into cozy cafes at any time to read and watch people. Her hometown didn't even have a decent cafe. She remembered watching popular TV shows as a child, always wishing to live the lives of those characters. whether in New York or any other bustling city. Now, and had all that and more. Her life in the city was full of joy and curiosity, but despite that, she found herself missing the charm of small town life. That's why she escaped to the countryside today. She wanted to visit a place she had never been to, excited to see a new part of the country, and reached the end of the exit road. She turned on her blinker again and turned right, crossing a bridge. Below the bridge was a calm lake, reflecting the surrounding trees. On one side of the lake were small and medium-sized white boats moored next to an old wooden pier, and I saw a young boy jumping off the pier into the water, splashing droplets onto the wooden platform. She thought to herself how charming life here seemed. The fresh air and open skies were everything Anna was looking for, and everything else was an added bonus. These seemingly simple things are often underestimated or overlooked, and Anna realized she had never known how much she missed them until now. She was struck by the vast sky above her. She was driving on a narrow road that rose and fell with the terrain, giving Anna a full view of the sky's vastness. She was about to go downhill, and her view was filled with soft blue skies and white pearly clouds stretching out on either side, extending to the tall, lush trees at the edges. And it continued along the country road, surrounded by expansive fields, some dotted with cows resting in the shade, while elsewhere, horses neighed and shook their heads. With a rustic barn in the background, she slowed down, turned right, and headed into the town center. On the way, she noticed him and walking his dog, who looked up and waved at her, and smiled in surprise and waved back. American small towns are often like this, where people greet each other regardless of whether they're in a car or walking on the street. Anna remembered this habit from her childhood, watching her family greet strangers, and she followed suit. Over time, it became an almost unconscious habit, like breathing. However, living in the city changed her mindset, and she no longer greeted strangers, even with a simple wave or nod. Being surrounded by so many people made her keep her distance, which Anna found a bit amusing. City life is surrounded by crowds, so people have to create their private space bubbles. On the other hand, people in small towns are happy to talk to complete strangers, even if they never see them again. Soon, Anna saw a small parking lot just off the main street. She gracefully pulled in, choosing a spot under a large tree. The shade provided good cover for her cart. She turned off the engine, grabbed her bag from the passenger seat, and got out. The warm air quickly surrounded her, but fortunately, it wasn't too humid. It felt just right. Anna closed the car door, put her keys in her bag, and walked toward the sunlit sidewalk under the tree's shade. Anna looked to her right and noticed an old brick wall. She loved the brick walls of American small towns. with their warm red and brown colors often featuring peeling old paint that only added to their charm. Part of this tall brick wall was covered with a freshly painted mural. The mural was vibrant, showcasing the town's highlights, intertwined with mountain views and greenery, with the town's name in italic lowercase letters across the bottom. Anna smiled, thinking about this lovely rural town and the pride its people had in it. Surrounded by lush greenery and full of charm, they painted this mural to commemorate their love for their hometown. Anna continued to admire the mural, listening to the bird singing in the nearby trees, feeling both relaxed and curious. As she continued walking down the main street, it was a charming street, lined with boutique shops, antique stores, and even a CF bakery. Anna was delighted to find that the street had 2 levels. She noticed a set of stairs and a ramp leading to an upper sidewalk and balcony. There were more local shops and grocery stores above, with a few bridges connecting the sides of the street. Flower pots and plants hugged the brick walls, and tables and chairs were set outside for shoppers to rest and enjoy their coffee. Anna felt a sense of joy rising in her heart, eager to explore. She loved antique stores as they reminded her of home. As a child, Anna often went to garage sales and antique shops with her grandmother, searching for old salt and pepper shakers, teapots, and vintage knitting patterns. She remembered one particular teapot from a sweltering summer day when she and her grandmother found it at a market. It was a charming white ceramic teapot with a small bird design. Her grandmother bought it for $5, and they used it for many afternoon teas, telling stories about the teapot. Anna thought of that teapot and her grandmother's fondness for it, warming her heart. That teapot now held a special place in Anna's kitchen, not just as an object, but as a treasure filled with beautiful memories, and a hope to find some new treasures in this small town, this time seeking items that would become a part of her life and memories. Just then, she heard the laughter of children in the distance, and it turned around and saw a group of kids playing in a small park at the corner of the street. The park had a small playground where the children slid down slides and swung on swings, while their parents watched from nearby benches, smiling and chatting. This moment of tranquility and joy comforted Anna's heart. She decided to walk into a particularly inviting antique store, greeted by the familiar smell of old items, a unique blend of old wood, fabric, and the passage of time. The shop owner, an elderly lady, greeted Anna warmly and enthusiastically introduced the store's highlights. Anna wandered through the store, her fingers lightly brushing over books, ceramics, and old furniture. She stopped at a bookshelf, flipping through some old books, and found a copy of one of her favorite childhood storybooks. The cover was slightly worn, but the contents were still intact. This brought a sense of familiarity to Anna, as if she were transported back to her carefree childhood days. and had decided to buy the book in a beautiful vintage vase. She had a pleasant conversation with the shop owner, learning about the town's history and stories. Leaving the antique store, Anna felt satisfied, holding her new treasures in hand, her heart filled with peace and joy. She continued to stroll along the town streets, stepping into the CF, ordering a hot chocolate, and sitting by the window, watching people pass by. She enjoyed this moment of tranquility, feeling the warmth and friendliness of the small town. Time flew by, and Anna realized the sun was beginning to set. She decided to head towards the town's edge to see the sunflower field. She had heard that this field was a town highlight, especially in summer when the sunflowers were in full bloom, creating a breathtaking scene. Anna walked along the country path, the air filled with the scent of flowers and fresh soil. She walked further, finally seeing the golden field. Thousands of sunflowers faced the setting sun, blooming brilliantly as if smiling at her. Anna felt incredibly moved and touched, standing at the field's edge, quietly admiring this magnificent scene. This day's countryside trip helped Anna rediscover inner peace and tranquility. She realized that no matter where life takes her, it's important to maintain inner balance and find moments that bring joy and satisfaction. Life in a small town, though simple, is full of warmth and humanity. It's these subtle beauties that make life really meaningful. Standing in the sunset's afterglow, Anna stood quietly for a while, then slowly left the sunflower field, returning to her cart. She knew this countryside trip would always remain in her memory, becoming a precious part of her life. She carried this peace and joy with her as she drove home, filled with beautiful expectations for the future. Dear listeners, thank you for your time and company. I hope our story brings you peace and calm, helping you have a wonderful night. Sweet dreams, and we'll meet again next week.